Welcome to the Consciously Connected podcast.
We're so excited to jump into this episode, which is going to be kind of a piggyback of our last episode, episode 49. We're coming into episode 50, and we're going to dive into the next, like, kind of layer of identity
Mm.
shifts and how to actually ascend through an identity shift and how to actually operate consciously in your world because identity shifts can be rattling. They can shake you to your core. They can, and yes, they are very much going to and are meant to allow certain ways where you're going to grow and evolve and things have to fall away. And there's going to be things that, can't go with you. But we want to talk about how to consciously lead yourself in those moments so that you don't necessarily blow up your world and you don't,
Yes.
hurt people in the process and you can be conscious in how you lead yourself through an identity shift and actually understand what's going on so that you can, quantum leap through them. You can become more empowered through them and you can up level to where you're actually being called to. Because I always know, like when I'm going through an identity shift, and trust me, we've been through so many, it's insane. Um,
Unreal.
some that were little and some that were really massive.
Yes.
And through that process, learning like what they are, learning what's going on, how they start, like what you can experience through them. And sometimes they're like smaller and sometimes they're very ginormous and they have large repercussions and accelerations, elevations of who we are. So we're going to dive into all the things identity shift, how you can see if you're kind of notice that you're going through one, what you should expect as you're going through one, and then how to lead yourself consciously as you're going through them so that you can feel really great about yourself, like how you're moving through it, how you're leading yourself through it, and have the most positive outcomes that you desire on the back end of it.
Yeah,
So,
I think this talk is super important. I know we talked about all things identity shifts last week, but
mhm.
um, you can talk about identity shifts a lot, but if you don't talk about what you're going, I hear it. It's a catchphrase. Oh, you're going through an identity shift. You're shifting. You're upgrading your identity. Okay, that all sounds good. Now tell me what it looks like. Right? Tell me how it feels. Tell me what I'm going to experience. Tell me what I should be looking for. Tell me what I should allow versus not allow. Tell me how to lead. And I think when we get down to it, there's a lot of people that talk about the idea. There's not a lot of people that tell you, like, okay, here's what you're going to go through. And sometimes you got to understand part of this process, identity shifting is it's a very up leveling process, but it also feels sometimes very, "Oh, I'm getting my soul sucked out," because, you're giving up part of you to change into a bigger version of you, and I know you experienced this a couple years ago, and it was interesting at best.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, there's a lot of different emotions that can come with it, and you know, grieving and sadness and anger and negative emotions that are like hurt
Yes.
and fears, like they all come like bubbling up essentially, and we can always anchor in lessons through identity shifts. We can always anchor in, how we're awakening and realigning with truth and attracting a little bit different and wanting to become more of who we truly are.
Yes.
And our soul is constantly seeking for us for that, right? It's like our soul is constantly seeking to put us in places where we're going to awaken to more of who we truly are. We're going to like release programs and patterns that are not serving us at an identity level on where we're meant to go and who we're meant to be walking this planet. But I we also know on the human level and the human experience of them, they can feel difficult. And we've gone through so many, and in the beginning I didn't fully understand them. And then now, like obviously the most recent one was a really, really, really big one for me and for us.
Yes.
And in that, it was like not only understanding I'm in an identity shift and the consciousness of that and like being able to see it play out in real time, but then to still anchor in the lesson of it. And part of that lesson for this past one was not just the consciousness of, hey, I'm in an identity shift and I can recognize what's happening here, but the lessons that came even through the consciousness of understanding it. So, for example, I'm in this big identity shift and my whole nervous system is recalibrating to a whole nother level. And there's a lot of loss that's happening. And I could sit here and say, like, oh, I'm in an identity shift consciously. I could see it. I could see, like, I knew what was going on. I've been through so many, I like come into this space of like, obviously, this is what I do, as a coach is
Yeah.
navigate and up, rise in identity. So, I knew exactly what was going on, but before, what I didn't understand was, being able to have consciousness that something like this is happening. Like, oh, everything that's happening is happening for me. And I know what's happening. And I know why all these things that feel painful or seem negative are happening. I know exactly what's going on. But instead of bypassing that with consciousness and bypassing that of, oh, I'm just an identity shift, it was really anchoring into trust and surrender completely at a whole new level, and me having to also not bypass the emotions that I was feeling through the identity shift due to consciousness that I was in one. And so it was not only anchoring in like the growth and expansion and capacity of my nervous system, it was allowing myself to actually come into the lesson that I was being called to through the identity shift was you have to feel your emotions deeply as a human. You have to move the emotions through your body and not bypass them due to consciousness or being able to see what's happening or be able to see what this person is bringing to the table and knowing that it's not about me or knowing that it's what my soul wants or knowing this is where I'm meant to go and like all these things we could bypass. But if I bypass my emotions, it only anchors in and holds on to the energy, the emotions of the old identity. And I
Yes.
had to move through those. And that was a huge lesson. But in this episode, we're going to dive into some of our identity shifts and kind of what they looked like and how we came out of them, but
The
also some
growth.
mistake I want to say mistakes we made. I mean, they were obviously lessons we had to grow through, but like things that we've done in identity shifting previously that we didn't fully understand that actually, hindered us a little bit in that process. And it could have
Yeah.
gone a lot more smoothly or a lot more, less painful, so to speak.
I think, and I'm gonna piggyback right there and just jump. I want to do a mistake first because I think it's important, and you just said it out loud, and it's the whole idea that going through an identity shift has to feel good, and it should feel great because I'm getting better and I'm improving myself and I'm up leveling. What what you used to do, what I've done, I know tons of people do is they it feels good, but it doesn't feel good because you're having to let go of you. Like part of you is being like dropped off at the bus station. Hey man, catch a ticket. See you later. Right? Because and who you are now is you're very comfortable being that person. And when you go through an identity shift, it's like, oh, I gotta let go of this guy or this girl. I gotta
Yeah.
that's weird. And you get pulled. And if you're not willing to say, feel that, and you're trying to feel good, you're gonna get stuck because the
Mhm.
old version of you is gonna hold tight. Those
That's
feelings are
right.
gonna hold tight, and you gotta really get to that ability to really pour into, "Hey, I'm gonna feel my way into this and allow the emotions to get in and out," and that allows you to, anchor in the new identity and also grieve the old one because it's an important process to
Yeah,
grieve
and
the
I
old
think
version.
I think it's important and we could bring forth like, you know, identity in of itself. So obviously it's like what do you identify as, And also it goes well beyond that. So a
Yes.
lot of the work we do in identity is not only just your identity as far as like I am a mom, I am a wife, I am, in my previous identity I am a teacher.
Yeah.
And so like obviously those are things we identify as that can come in and like
Mhm.
shift. Like obviously I left teaching, so the identity shift of going from I am a teacher to I am a full-time entrepreneur, like that was an identity shift. And so it can be those things, of course.
Yes.
Like when someone goes through a divorce, like their whole identity was as a wife or husband and now their identity is a single mom or dad or whoever, right? So like we can go through those types of identity shifts and those are big. But then
It's
there's
a huge one. Yeah.
yeah, but the ones that even are, like, almost more profound to a degree is the identity shifts that happen on a pattern, program, habitual, belief systems, what you're actually experiencing, and sometimes these things are activated by us. They're activated by, like, us shifting something consciously, or we're choosing something in our life. So if I, choose to leave the relationship, or if I choose to, switch my career or switch my business model or all those things, like, you're going to ignite an identity shift
Yes.
because you're choosing a different identity. You're choosing to step into another identity. And sometimes it comes in when you're not 100% consciously choosing it, and it's a higher self thing. It's a soul self thing.
Yes.
It's a universe, God, source, creator thing. Like, and it's coming in, and it's not something you can actually put tangibility to. I'm actually choosing to change this about myself, or to rise into a different identity that I like
Yeah.
identify with, or who I'm being and who I am. But it's like these little things that come in where it's like, okay, things start happening where you recognize, like, okay, my higher self, my soul is calling me to something else. And
Yeah.
you might not have any idea what that is, because obviously if you choose to leave a relationship, you're going from married, wife, husband, to single. Like, you're choosing that identity shift, and you have to navigate it still. But there's these moments when things come in and things just start changing, and you don't even know what identity you're becoming on the other side of it.
Yes.
And it's happening. You can see the signs, and we're going to talk about the signs, but you can't actually, like, grasp who you're going to become on the other side of it, or what you're not consciously necessarily choosing that you're going to activate that shift. And that's when it gets really, like,
A little
dicey,
dicey. Yeah. A little dicey.
and you got to kind of be able to recognize those things in the moment, even though there's so much unknown that's happening. And then it's like that space of trust and surrender. It's that space of, like, I don't know what's coming. I don't know what's happening truly, consciously, but I'm here for it. Because
Yeah.
on the other end of it, yes, like, it's putting you where you're meant to go. It's like little activations and things that come in that put you on a different path. And these are things that maybe you aren't consciously choosing. And those identity shifts are a little bit more difficult because it's not something that we even have any clue that are trying to navigate differently. We just
Yes.
know that we're being called to something different.
Yeah. And I think that calling sometimes a lot of people try to deny it until everything in their world starts to shift. And they're
Hmm.
just like, oh God. All right. I'm not consciously choosing this, but everything's choosing it for me. And I'm going to have to end up going through this. And I think one of the cool lessons about those, because I know I fought them for years, like that. I'm a stubborn son of a gun. So I will fight. I used to fight these identity shifts that were changes of who I am as a man, how I operated, behaviors, things, not like, oh, I'm shifting my career, I'm shifting this. No, it was like, oh, your soul's shifting. And in that, like, it's really being okay, not knowing. Number one, you trust and surrender is beautiful. But the second part of that is be like a child and try to learn as much as you can.
Hmm.
Like, just be curious as hell. Like, what do I need to learn about what's shifting? And what does that mean about me in the shift? And instead of trying to fight it, because it's inevitable. When the pieces start moving around you, the shift's inevitable. You can make it hard as hell, or you can allow yourself to work your way through it. And the hard one, trust me, I've done it several times, and it was not cute at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not
No, it
cute.
was cute. It was real cute. Not cute.
Not cute for our relationships.
Not always. So I think it'd be cool in this point to kind of dive into the different stages of an identity shift, and kind of what those are and what
Yeah.
you can expect and what it feels like. And then we can give some examples of our own, and then how to navigate them when you're in them.
Mhm.
So the first stage that we have recognized when we start this process, whether we do it consciously or it's like, our higher self is calling us to it. It's like you
Right.
start having what I call like that ningling feeling inside. It's like you're starting to get a stirring, like something all of a sudden that used to feel so aligned and so right. Now, all of a sudden, there's little parts of it that start feeling like, something doesn't feel as right, or you start feeling more disconnected. You start feeling like a stirring in yourself that you're not any longer meant to be in that place or with that person or with that friend or with that, whatever it may be, their career, your business model. You just start feeling a little bit disconnect from it. You don't
Yeah.
feel as lit up by it. You're not as passionate about it. It feels like something's off. It starts annoying you.
Yeah.
It starts feeling like, "Ugh," I don't know,
Yeah.
like,
Nita talks about this a good bit for men because men, we go through these purpose shifts, but they're identity shifts. And he says, like, you'll get to a place where something lets you up, and then you just wake up and you're just like, "Hmm, I don't know. I don't know if I like that anymore." And
yeah.
it's like, or your wife or your friend group, you're walking to them and you're just like, I don't know if I really want to hang out with them anymore. And it's like these signs where it's nothing they're doing. It's just like the feeling within you to be a part of that or to associate with that or identify with that kind of dies. And it just starts to wither. It doesn't happen all at once. Sometimes it does, but it's usually like this slow, like you start to notice things. It's like, oh, that's weird.
And
I
sometimes
don't,
you don't even notice them. It's just a
yeah,
feeling. And I know for women, like
yeah.
we have these feelings,
Yeah,
but
men are always looking at the way things look. And so I remember we went through one with a group, and I remember telling you, like, I don't know if I can do this. The way everything lays out, it doesn't feel good anymore. And you were like, all right. And you went and you did the same thing. You're like, yeah, I can see that now. And we both were like, crap, what does this mean? And you're like, well, looks like an identity shift almost. But it's having that understanding. There's going to be telltale signs. It's going to come from within. Like you said, the niggling feeling. There's going to be these feelings of kind of like, this doesn't feel good anymore. And not like it's hurting you, but it's like it's not lighting you up to be there and be involved and show up and pour into. And you're just kind of like, what is that about?
yeah, and the best sometimes it's like you're sitting in a room and you're like there and you're physically present. But I saw this TikTok about it one time and it was so real, but it's like you can literally watch yourself in the room and then you're in the room and you're present. And before where it would feel like super connective or super like, you weren't really thinking about it, you're just participating, you're super present in it. And then all of a sudden, like when this kind of starts happening, it's like that moment where your whole body just like it's like you have like an out of body experience and like you're looking at yourself in the room and you're like almost disconnected from yourself and you're watching yourself be present there, but it's like everything kind of goes silent and you're just like all of a sudden you see so many different things and you're like it's like ooh, like you like zoom out and you're like wait a minute, no. And this has happened multiple times. It's happened when I'm
Yes.
on calls in business and I've lost that level of where I was meant to be. And we're going to talk about some of those examples. And then I've had it happen in friendships. I've had it happen in relationships. I've had it happen in my career. And so there's so many places where it's like the initial stage is like you just start feeling off. You start
Yes.
feeling like a shake. You start feeling like the niggling feeling like there's something more. You start feeling unaligned. You start feeling like this doesn't land the way it used to. This doesn't
Yeah.
feel like it used to. And, some people will take that and run with it and be like, the minute they feel that, they're like, oh, this relationship's not for me. Like, you
No.
know, and it's not that. You can have multiple even identity shifts and still be in the same relationship or the same career or but there's
Yes.
there's just a different way that you're going to operate in it. And
That's it. It's a graduation of who you're being there,
yeah.
not like I need to disconnect myself from there. Because
Yes.
the place there is revealing you. And so there's part of you that still needs to look at yourself, but can you shift yourself and graduate yourself up the ladder so you operate differently there? And therefore the relationship or the the opportunity in business or the career is going to graduate with you because you're going to
Yeah,
be different.
and sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't, but
Yep.
it's like not having that control over that, or like, keeping yourself in a place due to the fears of that or whatever it may
Yes.
be is so important when you're being activated into an identity shift. Is not having attachments, although we all
Yes.
like deeply, struggle with attachment, but it's like not having attachments, but also like continuing to serve what you're being called to and what you're being called to move to, and not hold yourself back or play small in those activations, but also not not expect something to just blow up and fall away just because you're going through something. Like everything can rise and evolve with you, but it's like if you try and keep yourself small or staying in a box you're no longer a fit for, then you'll almost start like what we call, like when you're being called to an identity shift and you're being called to this energy, we always say it's like, you'll start getting like a tap on the shoulder. Like you're going to have little things that start waking you up or start like
Yeah.
saying, "Hey, like wake up, like
Yes.
this isn't the right spot or you're meant to move or whatever." And it'll start with a little tap, and then if you kind of pay attention to it, you're like, "Oh, it's annoying, like get off me." Like you kind of start like paying attention to it, it's trying to wake you up. And then and then it comes to a space where it's like, okay, you're not paying attention, all right, like, and then it's like I'm slapping you, you're gonna get slapped across the face, and like, okay, that one kind of stung a little bit more, like you're feeling more activation. And then you don't pay attention, then it gets harder, the resistance gets harder, the pain gets harder, the space of you being able to stay in that place gets harder. And then eventually what we have found to happen, because we've had this happen multiple times, then things will start happening for you. And when you're not in the capacity or empowerment or ability to move your own self and lead yourself through or out of that space that you've been in, or when it no longer aligns, it's like, okay, then there's something that's going to come in that you have no control over, and that is going to actually physically move you because you don't have any other freaking choice.
Yeah, and
And
I
sometimes
promise
that's really
you,
painful. It's really
it's
painful.
literally I mean, it's grabbing you by the hair and dragging your ass across the ground sometimes, and you're
Yeah.
kicking and screaming the whole way there, and literally, there have been times where it was like, "Okay, I don't know what to do," and God was like, "I got you," and you're just like, "Oh my god, what am I going through? Everything around me is going crazy," but the reality is, like, you wouldn't listen. You wouldn't pay attention to what the universe, God was showing you every day. He's like, check it out. Pay attention. Look, 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 look. I said, look. And then you're like, okay, there it is. I got you. And you have no choice at that point. And so after experiencing a few of those,
Yeah.
we decided to start when I tell Jocelyn, like, hey, I'm getting this feeling, she goes, you need to pay attention. I'm like, yes, ma'am. So now it's very big on like if I start to get something going on with me, she gets something going on within her. The first thing we do is we come to each other to acknowledge it. So we're both on board. And then
Yeah.
we can make sure we're going through it and paying attention to what's being called to us.
Yeah, and that just, takes a lot of more consciousness of this, and we wanted to do this
Yes.
episode to give that,
Yeah.
of course.
100%.
And even having the information, sometimes it's still like you're not
Still sucks.
100% conscious of it in the moment that it's starting. And even upwards of 2 years ago, when I went through one of the biggest ones I've been through, it's like that I still wasn't a I mean, I understood it to a degree and I was conscious of it to a degree, and we were having so many conversations around it, but it still was like little layers that I couldn't fully see until I did. And so it's not shaming yourself if you're not like, if you
No, heck no.
got the tap, you got the slap, you're like, okay. Like sometimes our soul needs more and more like information. It needs more, I shouldn't say our soul, our human needs more of this to get on board with our soul, like where we're going.
Yes.
And
That's exactly it right there. Like the
yeah, we'd have to,
human side of us needs to understand it all. The
yeah,
soul's just like, just trust me. Come on, let's go. And
yeah.
and I did mine happened in October, November. I had one then. It took me a month and a half to realize what the hell was going on. And you're like, "Something's going on. What's going on? Something's going on. What's going on?" I'm like, "Fuck if I know." But then I was like, "Oh, I see what's going on. We gotta move. We gotta move, because I'm gonna
Yeah.
die if not." So, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
interesting.
it's one of those things, yeah, that is like, and so that's kind of like the first stage is
Yes.
like that piece. Then you start, moving in it, whether you're consciously doing or you're being like drug into it, right? It's
Yeah.
like, okay, then what starts happening is things that are no longer aligned or no longer can go with you or whatever start falling away. And, things that are no longer ascending at the frequency of which you are going or meant to go, they have to fall away. Like
Mhm.
it's no longer aligned, whether that be relationships, careers, your own identity, your belief systems. Like there was so many times when I would have an anchored belief system around something and things would just keep coming in to show me that that belief system was not real or was not right, or to go to my next level I had to shift that belief system to be able to have a different frequency of a belief system that actually was aligned with where I was going. So that's happened. It's patterns in programming that is going on that you have to start recognizing and seeing, and then the old patterns have to be let go. And those sometimes are the hardest things because it's so anchored into the identity that we operate from subconsciously every single day. So
Mhm.
like 95% of what we do on a daily basis is so subconscious. And so it's like, just like going and brushing your teeth, you don't consciously think about that. Or when you're
Yeah.
driving home from the grocery store, you're not consciously thinking about like turn on the blinker, turn left, push gas. Like a lot of what we do, like in action, is subconscious, but a huge part of who we are and how we operate and how we think and how we perceive life and how we're moving is subconscious. So
Yeah.
when
And
those things start shifting and changing, it's like there's a void space that comes into play, or like these things have to start falling away. And it's painful
yes.
sometimes. It feels like grief, it feels like loss.
And I think too, like, part of that void space is some of your patterns and some of your behaviors are gonna start to cause you pain that you never felt before. Like, just you started to say, "Huh, that didn't feel like it used to. What? And
Yeah.
that pisses me off. Why is that?" And you start to recognize,
Yeah.
like, the same thing I've done for 15 years now all of a sudden feels like pain.
That's right.
Hey, why is this giving me pain? It's giving me pleasure. And that's when you probably know, like, it's starting to crumble. And I need to start, all right, if that behavior that I've done for 15 years feels good, now done it 3 times in a row and it gets progressively worse, something's going on. I need to pay attention, right? And it's like,
That's right.
allowing those little things, I think it's super important. Those, um, paying attention to when things start to fall away, because it literally, you will wake up one day and shit'll just be gone. People will just say, "Hey, I'm going
Yeah.
to another state." And you're like, but you've been here for 20, yeah, I got a job over there. Forgot to tell you about it. And you're just like, okay. Or something just happens. Like people, places, and things fall away. It just, whatever is needed for you in that moment to see the path forward is what the universe is going to show. Hey, these things have got to go so you can go. If they don't
And
go, you're going to stay stuck.
Yeah, and obviously, like an actual move, like your mind can conceptualize that, like this person is gone.
Yes.
But what is even more painful sometimes is when circumstances and situations happen that you don't fully consciously understand, but it is creating an energy or a thing where people are removed from your life, and it can feel like drama, or it can feel
Yes.
like deep, like a misunderstanding. Like you could feel misunderstood, you could feel, or maybe they feel misunderstood, or whatever it
Yeah.
may be, like where there's these energies that happen and these little synchronicities of things that you can see sometimes, and you can see them playing out and you're like, oh man, if they could see the big picture, like they wouldn't feel this way or they wouldn't operate this way. But sometimes it's like these things happen, and this has happened so many times over the past 5 years, specifically around like certain friends or certain ways that we got, involved in things, or we had a place where it was like these things were unveiling themselves. And we could see the threads that were happening and why someone's perspective was the way it was and why we were
Yes.
like, whether it be judged or, misconstrued or put in a box of who we were being when we're like, okay, we can see what happened and like why that was, but how do you explain that? But it's just higher than you.
Yeah.
And this can happen in your relationship. It can happen in your businesses. It can happen, in certain places and spaces that you can't fully understand. But there's these little things that are moving behind the scenes energetically or synchronicities that are happening that are actually blocking you from something else, blocking you from that person, blocking you from whatever. And this can really cause inner chaos. It can cause
Yeah.
emotional triggers. It can cause you really anchoring into wounds around, being rejected or abandoned or not understood or not seen or feeling not chosen or feeling like, the disruption that can happen in these places. There was a point in my business where it was like I was showing up in every single capacity that I had always shown up in, and it was crickets, it was silence, nothing's working. Like it felt like everything I had done to build a multi six figure
Yeah.
business now no longer was even a fraction working.
Yes.
And it was because I was meant to move. And it was meant to be like me going and seeking and me having stirrings inside of myself. And we've had that with friends where it's like we literally did not do what was being portrayed that was done, but we could see how it got put that way and how like the
Yeah.
different things came in and like made it look that way and appear that way. And there was nothing that we could really do about it except surrender to the process, even though we know we were being misunderstood, even though we
Yeah.
knew and we could see what was happening, but also valuing ourselves and
And too, like,
understanding the logistics of it.
that hard part too is like your ego gets involved and your
Hmm.
ego wants closure. Your ego wants to hold on to why is this thing disappearing? And it's like trust and surrender. Because your ego is going to go down a path of more pain in order to get the answer of trust and surrender.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, the end result is trust and surrender. No matter how much you fight it, no matter how much you hold on to it, when it starts to get to this level where everything starts to unravel, you don't have a choice anymore but to
Mm.
trust and surrender. Because if not, you're just going to cause undue pain upon you and people around you. And it don't feel
Yeah.
good. Trust me, I've hurt my wife going through things and trying to hold on to old versions of me, and to a point where I'm like, now it's like, I don't wanna hold on to anything. I'm like, "All right, new version of me, let's go. Jump up on top of the mountain." Instead of like, "Man, I'm just gonna stay stuck and be okay and just stick with this idea." But it just hurt more people than it made anything better.
Yeah, and it is, part, this second phase, we'll call it. It does feel in some ways the most painful to your wounds and to your ego, and we
Yes.
always call it like there's an ego death that happens, like, and you grieve parts of yourself. You go through a grieving process of like, familiarity. And like this used to feel so good and was so fulfilling and was so powerful. And now it feels completely opposite of that. And what happened, and your mind can romanticize the past and romanticize when it was good. And like you want to feel those feels again, and so
Yes.
it's painful, and then your ego coming into play, and like through this, like when you're losing these things and your ego wants to fight for your to be seen, your ego wants to
Yeah.
fight for you to be understood, or your ego wants to fight for you to be in the same materialistic status that you were in before. And like all these things are coming up online, and when you don't fully understand it, it can feel overwhelming. It can feel like your whole soul is getting ripped out of your chest. It can feel very painful,
If you
and this is the space that like you have to anchor in, and it will like activate you to kind of move into that third stage.
100%, and I think a good phrase too, if you catch yourself in this phrase, because I hear this a lot with guys as they start to move. I know I've said it too. I just wanna go back to when it was better. I just wanna go back to when it felt better. I just wanna go back to when it was easy. I just wanna go back to when we were good. And when you're there, you realize, like, they're being called, but they don't know what's on the other side, and they're, like, thinking
Mm.
backwards. That's the ego version of you. It's always thinking backwards
Mhm.
because they're protecting what it knows. Ego can't trust what it doesn't know, so it always tries to pull you backwards to what you do know. And
Yep.
so it allows that, hey, when you start to hear yourself like, man, I just want to, if you say about your relationship, I just want to go back to when we used to do this. I just want to go back. They're like, God's calling you to a bigger version of that relationship, right? I just want to go back to when it was easy. Well, God's calling you up to make it easier. And it's like, how do we allow ourselves to see whenever we start talking backwards language, we're trying to hold on to something the ego wants us to hold on to. Is it
Yeah.
going to feel, are we going to be comfortable? No. Are we going to be certain as to what's coming? No. And that's okay because you not knowing doesn't mean it's not going to be good. It just means that you get to explore and build it as it's created. And that's where the power is.
Yeah, and I think going into the 3rd stage, like, some would beg to say that this is the hardest part of an identity
Oof.
shift, and that is the void. And so it's like after everything is kind of fallen away and, and I shouldn't say everything, but there's a lot that falls away.
Yes.
Or there's things that are breaking down, like, to the point, like, where I know on 2 big ones that we've had in the last 10 years specifically, I can think of 2 really big ones to the point where not only was everything falling away as far as like friendships, as far as like people in our world, as far as career in our business, as far as money, but like literally our environment and the things in our home started completely breaking down,
Fall apart.
falling apart completely to everything needed an upgrade. Like everything energetically needed an upgrade. So we had like the first one went through we had to replace our roof. Somebody ran through our mailbox, shattered our whole mailbox, all our bushes, all our front yard. Like our whole front door was fucked up. Our garage door broke. Like we had so many things that happened in the course of like a short period of time. It was like, oh my God, like what is actually going
It was
on?
like refrigerator, stove, dishwasher, microwave.
That was the second one.
And I'm
That
sitting there
was
going, okay, I see. I got it. I got it. Like, stop breaking shit, please.
yeah, it was like everything was breaking down. Like that was the second one where every single appliance seemed to break at the same time. And like we had like stuff coming through the ceiling, like the whole ceiling needed repair, like all these things, like one after another. And I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
God, the entire environment is literally breaking down. And this has happened so many times, but it's like, so this part then moves into the void. So like all this happens, like you lose everything,
Yeah.
like everything's breaking down, everything feels like it's falling away. You have no money, you have no friends, you have like everything feels like it's just like gone or changed, or like you're
Yes.
grieving and you're like in these negative emotions, you're triggered, you're in emotional chaos, like all this craziness happens. And then you come into the void. And the void is like lonely feeling. It's like a what the hell? Like, what do I do? Like, I don't know what's next. I'm lost. I'm confused. I don't understand what's happening. It can feel like, you know, you've dropped all the balls and you're just like, I don't have anything to play with. Like, it's like
Yeah.
you feel in
Because
between, like
yeah,
worlds.
I think that's it too. It's like you're in between two versions of yourself. One version you know and one version you don't know yet. And you're trying to become acclimated to the version that you're being called into while still having a vision toward the version that existed. And it's like, oh god, I don't even know what to do or how to be with this new person. I don't know what the dance is. I don't know what the behaviors are. I don't know the habits. I
Hmm.
don't know what I every day you're learning. Every day something's called into your world. Every day something's like feels almost earth shaking. You're like, because you can go through them. Sometimes you're like, "God, I just want to break. I just want to." I've told you this before. It's like, I just need like 2 weeks. I just need to not think for 2 weeks because I need a break. Yeah,
Well, I mean, that's kind of, I feel like you were more in that in stage two. Like stage three
yeah,
is more like, it's like numbness. It's like a not understanding. It's like almost like a nervous system kind of like collapse to some degree, and it's
Yes.
like nothing is working. Like, no
Yes.
matter what you're doing to change the situation, what conversations you're having, what actions you're putting into play, what new realms where you're like, okay, I'm going to switch this up and I'm going to change this and I'm going to go after this. It's like nothing works. It's like you feel like no matter what I'm doing, it's literally like I'm hitting my head against the wall. Like,
Yes.
and nothing's changing and nothing's shifting, and it can feel lonely, it can feel depressing, it can feel like the sadness, it can feel also frustrating because you're like, what the hell, like everything I'm doing is not working, and like
Yeah.
nothing. I just feel like I'm in this void space where it's like I have no answers and I have no way forward because everything that's worked before isn't working, and I don't
Yes.
really know what to do, or I don't know what works yet. And so you're just kind of spinning. It's like it feels like a spinning. And this is the place, this last big one I had, where I came in, I'm like, okay, I'm in the void. Like, I know I'm in the void. And it's like anchoring in such trust and surrender, like surrendering completely, not pushing, not moving from lack, not, trying and like, not that you do no aligned action, but it's like not attached to the line of action. It's not
Yeah.
moving from a place of lack because you don't have and you're trying to get, but like truly surrendering and trusting, like every action I take is moving me more towards where I'm going. And it can
This
feel slow. Like I described it this past time, I was like, it literally feels like I'm in like quicksand, and I'm taking all my might and effort to like walk or to get somewhere, and it's just like I'm still just stuck, and I'm like trudging through, and I'm like being sucked back down, and the
yeah.
void is hard.
It's hard too because you have to trust what's on the other side even though you can't see it. And
Mhm.
and you're getting I know as a guy, you wanna force the outcome. Like, I want the outcome to be here now. And so you get into this mindset where you think you're gonna force the other version of you to come into fruition like that, and you haven't built him yet. And the more you force, the more pissed you get at yourself. You're like,
Mhm.
"What the" you're like, "Nothing's happening at all." It's a wild feeling. I know I went through a year a couple years ago where I didn't sign a client. It was probably 3 or 4 years ago. Like, I was had a 2 or 3 good years in a row, and 1 year, it was like and I know in the year because I went through so much growth in myself, and it was like, "Hey, we're just gonna take your business offline and make you
Mhm.
grow, sir." And I'm like, "But I gotta sign clients, I gotta sign clients." I remember you saying this to you all the time, and you're like, "You gotta go through this." And I'm like, "Yeah, you're right. I gotta go through this." And I went through it, and it was like light turned right back on. I just had
Yeah.
to allow myself instead of trying to force myself to the other end, work your way through it and allow yourself to go through it with grace and learn what it takes to be the version of you you're being called to be.
Yeah. And sometimes that feels really hard in this moment. And what we do with clients in the void, it's like really like anchoring into coming back into your truth, coming back into yourself, really like debunking beliefs you've had. Like, it's almost a space of acting as if what you want. And sometimes it's like we can have an idea of what we want, and you can move more energetically and at a frequency level in the void to be more aligned with where you're going versus where you've been. And sometimes it's like we can have a vision of what we want, and getting on that frequency may not necessarily manifest exactly what we want or what we think we're meant for, but being on that frequency and becoming in alignment with those characteristics, with those behaviors, with those beliefs, with those patterns, like stepping into that next level brings what exactly is meant for you at that next frequency level.
Yes.
And where we can get stuck in the void longer is when we're desperately trying to hang on. We're desperately trying to, you know, grip and control and try and like navigate and not just actually let release and allow ourselves to kind of quantum leap to the next identity or the next space, the next frequency. And so we try and grip, we try to control, we try to hang on, we try and change, we try and force, like all these words, are keeping us ourselves energetically in this void space because
Yes.
our we're trying to energetically up level and ascend, but we're like really like restricted in our energy. So when we work with clients, we do a lot around the shadows that are holding that energy and blocking and limiting that space of the next level.
Mhm.
And in doing that, then it's like living as if that person, showing up aligned in your energy, trust and surrender, allowing flow. Women, it's like leaning back and more in your feminine energy. Men, it's like stepping into your grounded masculine leadership in the ways that you lead guys to do, and being able to get more into align with our soul self, our true self in these moments allows for that frequency to like just kind of be like a floodgate and let go and catapult you to a new frequency, which then brings in, you know, that next phase, that next space where it's like stage 4 is when you can come into that recalibration. You can come into that frequency of the
Yes.
next level. You start becoming a different person. You operate from a different level of programming, patterns, habits, behaviors, the way that you see yourself, the shadows that you just alchemize through the
Yes.
process of that shift. And stepping in, and you start making new decisions. You start seeing things a little bit more clear. You release control. You release attachment to all the things that had to fall away. You start building more self trust in who you are. You start feeling more stable. And like that's kind of the stage 4 where you start attracting, you start seeing new things start coming
Yeah.
to your world. You start seeing the manifestations on the other side of the huge,
Yeah.
tidal wave that just came through, and you start seeing things clearer again. You start attracting different people, different opportunities, different relationships, different spaces. And that's like kind of the space of like, I'm consciously choosing different now. I'm
Yeah.
recalibrating to a new level of frequency and allowing what's meant for at this frequency to come to me.
Yeah, and I think you hit on it well, talking about the fact the best way and the fastest way for us to get from 3 to 4 is to serve the higher version of ourselves instead of serving the fears in ourselves. Because like,
Hmm.
control is fear, um, you know, needing to get to the other or needing to know what's coming is fear. Holding on to the past is fear. And if you're trying to serve the fear, you can't serve the bigger version. And it's the trust and surrender allows you to serve the bigger version, and that will allow it to move faster. But if you keep serving the fear because it steps in between you and where you're going, like, you're going to serve that thing, and the thing is you want is not going to come as fast as you want. You're going to get there. There's going to a lot of scrapes and bruises along the way.
Yeah, and like we can really anchor into an example. It's like you were talking about, like not signing clients, and like the
Yeah.
whole business, like basically we burnt the business down to a degree, and we put a lot of our focus into other places, friendship groups, like other avenues of career and things that you were doing in your
Yeah.
career, in your corporate career. And then
Yeah.
also like me, and like shifting completely my business niche and how we wanted to show up and the business model we were running. And it's like, then this space where it's like everything fell away. Like almost everything fell away. Everything was breaking down in our home. Everything was like, holy shit, I'm drowning. Everything felt like I am going to literally die. I'm not safe. Nervous system completely fucked. And then we came into the space of void. But then, like, when we came into and in the void space, it was like every single day we were coming together. Every single day we were in personal development. We were with our coaches. We were in it. Like we were shifting our identity. We were aligning. And this is a whole part of our business model. It's like awaken, align, attract, anchor. And the coming from alignment is where you are actually doing the work to anchor in a new level of identity,
Yes.
to start operating a certain way in the void. And then you start attracting different. And that's exactly what happened. Like all of a sudden, the floodgates let down, and like the level of
Yeah.
attraction of the new identity, and the level that we literally went from like 2K in our business to consistent 20 to 25 to 30K months for 6 months after that, when it before it looked like that was nowhere in sight. And and the level that things just all of a sudden started working or started happening or started shifting, it's like boom, like, okay, now you're attracting, and now
Yeah.
you're in the space of recalibration. Now you're in a new identity frequency. Now you're like, things are starting to pick up. You're gaining momentum. And people think, oh, this is where the identity shift stops. And that's not actually where it stops.
Now that's
Um,
when it starts growing again. Yeah.
no, it's just like that space where it's like, you're attracting all these new things. And I always say to clients, like, okay, now we're in like the good juju space. You're attraction new things. You have momentum again. You're feeling like the cloud lifted. You're
Yeah.
feeling a little bit more like, okay, I'm recalibrated again. But there's going to be these little sneaky things, these little sneaky bitches of your old identity that keep coming and like teasing you. Like, are you going to come into your old
Yep.
identity? Knock knock. Are you going to lower yourself to a lower frequency? Knock knock. Are you going to see like, and it really anchoring your nervous system at this level of frequency, or are you going to fall out? Are you going to flatline? Are you going to be there?
Yeah.
And and this is where anchoring in your new identity, anchoring in new beliefs, anchoring in patterns, really like stewarding this next level, an embodiment of where you want to be and where you're growing and how to
Yeah.
anchor into everything you're attracting and hold it, comes into like that fifth stage. And that fifth stage is like where a lot of people skip, and they either will self-sabotage or they'll hit like what we call upper limits, and they'll go back
Yeah.
down, and it's like this roller coaster ride for a little while, um to try and anchor in this new identity that you're being called to. But the anchoring in is the embodiment, it's the
Yes.
leadership, it's the consciousness, it's the anchoring into the peace and power of where you are now. It's the capacity of your nervous system to hold the new money, the new relationship, the new things without sabotaging it, without, upper limiting yourself. What do we call it? Invisible glass ceiling.
Yeah.
It's like allowing yourself to continue to anchor in the new, and allow it to be natural, and allow your standards to rise, your energy to calibrate, your choices to be more conscious and different than maybe how you would choose in your old identity. And when you can do that and you can start really anchoring in and embodying where you've come and where you are, then you start seeing quantum leaps of manifestations. You start
And I
seeing massive opportunities. Yeah.
and I think that anchoring in, like, it's become the example. Like, everything you just went through, now you have to live it as if every day. And the living it attracts more to you. The being it and in your choices, your thoughts, your beliefs, your actions every
Mhm.
day starts to really like you don't have to think anymore. You don't have to, you just get to operate as the person. And before you're trying to figure out who do I have, what do I have to do? What's the mindset? What's the skill set here? What actions, what beliefs, what thoughts? Now you're like, I'm him and I just get to move. And in that anchoring is, it's, you got to keep doing it. You got to keep doing it until it becomes autopilot. Like, it
Yeah.
becomes the 95%. Oh, I
Yeah.
just operate like this every day because I have no choice anymore because that's what my body does. That's what my brain does. When you
Yep.
say this, I do this. When this happens, this is how I move. And you're not thinking, you're just going. But it's the anchoring piece. Most, like you said, most people get through the first four, and then that fifth one, they're just, oh, I'm done. No,
Mhm.
the hard,
Yeah.
the most important part is this part. Because if you just go through all the process, but you don't build the example of who you like, the beingness to match all
Yep.
of that, doesn't matter anymore.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, at the end of the day, that's the space where it's like you get to fully embody. And for you, if we go back to the example of your business, it's
Yeah.
like you got to a space where it was like, okay, now we're attracting, the floodgates are open. There's all these things coming in. And then it was also like, okay, now you have this little thing over here that's like distraction or a little thing over here like, are you going to play into the ideas of your ego that you still aren't enough or still aren't doing enough, or
Yeah.
like these little upper limit voices that come into play. And then there's also the space of like, okay, now you're attracting all this. Are you going to be an embodied leader that moves and navigates so that you're fueling yourself? Are you going to burn out? Are you going
Yeah.
to, you know, stick a fork in it? Are you going to like allow yourself to attract all this and but not embody the capacity that it takes to continue to grow and to be a steward of a leader that moves and shifts things but keeps the momentum rolling? Or are
Yeah.
you going to be someone who allows old identity patterns, ego, lack, all the things to come in and kind of like rob you and kind of pull you back down and sabotage this level of identity? Or we're going to
Yeah.
be a steward and what I call being a lighthouse and actually shine and lead and navigate the waters to be your fuel source. And
Yes.
that's, that's a whole nother
Yeah.
level.
Because I mean, as you step into these identities and like, we're gonna get deep right here. Um, the identity you step in the beginning is going to expand as you attract more. So like I step into this new identity in business and my business started to expand.
Hmm.
The problem is I decided, well, this identity is good enough and the business kept going this way. I didn't keep going with it. And so we have to, as we start to grow into this new identity, we realize that the things that we attract expand and they can expand outside of your capacity. If you don't grow to hold, if you don't grow to become more inside of the new identity, meaning you anchor in every day the skill sets, the mindset, the heart set, the leadership, the trust, the belief every day, you'll return back to the
Yeah.
old belief system. And that thing will get too big too fast and it'll be topsy turvy. It'll fall on top of you. So
Yeah.
I know how that feels. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, we talk about like identity shifts that are quantum leaps.
Yeah.
And so that would look like this, where you go from like kind of like no step 1, step 2, step 3, but you go right into step 4, where all of a sudden you're one way and the next thing you know something radically shifts and you're in step 4.
Yeah.
And so you bypassed a lot of that identity shift, but next thing you know you're attracting something completely different, whether that be out of loss or out of gain. So for example, you win the lottery and next thing
Yes.
you know you're broke, and then all of a sudden now you're a multimillionaire. Like, you skipped all those stages and now you're attracting something completely different on a completely different realm. If you don't anchor in to the level of embodiment of that new energy and you go to step 5 with that new level of attraction, you will self-sabotage. That's why you see, like, I think they said like 80% of people who win the lottery go broke within 2 years because they
Yeah.
don't actually shift their identity to be a wealthy person at the core level, or their nervous system and capacity to be and
Yeah.
hold that level of wealth. And so they always go back down to their innate identity and who they are. And like, this is the work we do with clients, is really like shifting your identity. And sometimes it can be a slow process. Sometimes our clients, I've had a client that came and hired me and didn't even know what was going to happen. All of a sudden her business blew up in like 2.5 seconds and she had to get on board and behind that. And then I've had another client who, came into my world and hired me and didn't know what was going to happen, but then her husband came and asked for a divorce out of nowhere and found out he had like a lover and was leaving her for somebody else, and like she had no idea and it just came out of nowhere. And like, so like sometimes you do have these moments where you're called to what is called a quantum leap of identity, where it's
Yeah.
like you kind of skip all these stages and then you have to anchor in. And
You got
and
to
that's
build
a
the
whole nother.
identity. Yeah. If you make that big of a jump at some point, if you don't build that identity,
Yeah.
we're screwed. We're really screwed.
Well, yeah, you'll wind up just kind of attracting
Yeah.
old things, or you'll sabotage, you'll upper limit yourself, and you'll go backwards from that place. And so this is kind of the 5 stages of identity shifting when you're moving through it, and then you have the quantum leap, so you go from 0 to 4 and 5, and then you kind of have to go backwards. It's like you all of a sudden go
Yes.
to 4 and you're called to 5, but you still have to experience some things of identity deaths and, like, oh my God, now I'm a millionaire and holy shit, like, who am I at this identity? And then you get depressed. All your friends start using you for money. You lose all your family because you didn't give them a million. Like, so it's like these things start happening and you have to experience almost the stages in backwards some, and
Yeah,
sometimes it's not. Sometimes skip to 4 and you anchor it in and you work with a coach and you excel past that.
yeah, and I think that's the
Mhm.
beauty of having somebody that can walk you through that and or knows what it looks like, feels like, and kinda the science behind it, because it is a science, and it is a and 2, having science with a little intuitional gifts, it makes it way more powerful because we can see things at a level sometimes that, you can't even understand when you're on the other end of our calls or our services, and so
Mhm.
we can move you at a faster rate and help you anchor in a bigger identity than the one you were shifting into because we can see what's next outside of like, hey, we're gonna have to build this in because this once this thing blows, they need to hold it. And that's gonna
Yeah.
be a big thing. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like when you're really ready to shift into a new identity because you're feeling that stirring or that calling, or you just know that you're meant for more than where you're at right now. You know you're meant for more income, more intimacy, more impact, more influence. You know that you're meant to build a bigger business in your purpose, or you know you're meant to have more deeply intimate, connected relationships, but you just can't quite figure out why it's not happening for you or why it feels slow or why it's not working. Like all these things, this is our work and this is what we do on a deep level, and being able to read the shadows that are running, being able to see the things that are kind of blocking or limiting that next level and you ascending through this identity process, and being able to be supported and held accountable and shifting into that new identity, and then also not sabotaging it once you do start attracting different and start anchoring in that next level at a whole new level. Like, this is ultimately the work we do with
Yeah.
individuals and couples. So if it's something you're feeling called to, if you notice yourself in any of these stages, if you're feeling like this call to like want to be more and want to shift into more and you want to anchor in more, we have a couple of spots open in private coaching. We also have new offers that are coming through. We have courses like the masculine mastery and the feminine frequency that can really shift you at an identity level in those ways. So reach out to us, check the call notes, and we will be back on the next episode. We're going to do one more episode around identity, and we're going to dive into a whole nother kind of perspective from it and what it looks like. But thank y'all so much for listening to this one. We hope you take away so much and see yourselves and be able to be a conscious creator of your own life through consciously leading yourself in identity shifts and trusting and surrendering and hiring mentors that can help you through it. So thank y'all. We'll
Bye,
see you on the
guys.
next one.
See ya.